Okay, welcome to Advanced Toastmasters Online. Here are some online meeting tips. You can use a headset or earbuds to help us hear you better and to help you hear us as well. Please mute your microphone when you're not speaking once the meeting starts. You can also toggle your video on and off if you need to remove yourself from your seat or get up or even eat. Please turn the video off if you would like to at that point, but we'd like to see you so you can keep it on. You can adjust your view here from speaker view to gallery view. So if you want to see just the speaker, you can click on that, and you do this from your side. From my side, I will be recording, so it'll look like how I want it to look on my side for the recordings. If you have questions or notes for the speaker, please press this chat button here, and you can send private messages to any of the speakers. You can also send notes of encouragement. And please also, though, again, wait for the speaker to be finished before you send those notes to them. This meeting will be recorded. Our policy is that by participating in our meeting, you agree that a recording will be available publicly on YouTube and on our website. If you'd like to join our club, you just go to ato.toastmost.org. Make sure that you have your CC or above and are willing to learn the technologies and get up to speed on being a great online presenter. And click here, become a member. And at that point, you can see our fees, the forms to fill out, and everything you need to start as a member of our club. At this point, I would like to put the gavel down and say welcome to our meeting and hand the meeting over to our Toastmaster, who will read the mission of the club first before she gets started. Lori.
Thank you. Welcome, everyone. Our theme, I'm happy to serve as your Toastmaster for the first time in this club. Before I even get started, even before our mission, I just want us all to congratulate Tricia, as she is now a newly appointed District 38 Area 12 Director starting July 1st through June 30th of 2019. Yay, Tricia.
Congratulations.
The mission for our club, let's see. We are an advanced Toastmasters club. I don't know if I have our mission statement. Is that not on our agenda?
It's on the screen.
It's on the screen.
Oh, that's where, okay, that is on our agenda. We're an advanced Toastmasters club which supports maverick leaders to have more impact by providing advanced feedback on leadership skills and discovering what it means to be an out-of-the-box, innovative leader. Our theme for today is spring. We'd love to hear anything that you need to share about what you love about spring. We have our roles filled for the day. Our grammarian, oh, I didn't replace our grammarian. Pamelah, I forgot.
I can do that when I'm not speaking. I just won't take notes for myself when I'm speaking.
Okay.
And because I wasn't prepared, I don't have a word for the day. So I'll just do all counting.
That's fine. Thank you. So Pamelah will serve as our counter and give us a report at the end of the meeting on our use of filler words. Dawn is our timer, and Dawn will show timing cards. Yep, green, yellow, and red for when you meet the minimum, the middle, and maximum time for your speech. So Tricia, 10 minutes, is that 10, like 9 to 11? For, or 8 to 10 for your
8 to 10.
8 to 10.
Yeah.
Our first speaker today is Tricia. She is working from the Interpretive Reading Manual. The project is Interpreting Poetry. Tricia is going to share a poem from her favorite poet. She's working on her Advanced Communicator Bronze, and her first goal, and this is her first goal toward reaching her DTM. The time for her speech is 8 to 10 minutes, and the title is The Raven. Please join me in welcoming Tricia.
Once upon the midnight dreary, while I pondered, weak and weary, over a quaint and curious volume of forgotten lore, while I nodded, nearly napping, suddenly there came a tapping of someone gently rapping at my chamber door. "'Tis some visitor," I muttered, tapping at my chamber door. "Only this, and nothing more." Ah, distinctly I remember, it was the bleak December, and each separate dying ember wrought its ghost upon the floor. Eagerly I want the morrow. Vainly I had sought to borrow from my books some securse of sorrow for the lost Lenore, for the rare and radiant maiden whom the angels called Lenore, nameless here forevermore. And the silken, sad, uncertain rustling of each purple curtain thrilled me, filled me with fantastic terrors never felt before, so that now to still the beating of my heart, I stood repeating, "'Tis some visitor, entreating entrance at my chamber door. Some late visitor, entreating entrance at my chamber door. This is it, and nothing more." Presently, my soul grew stronger, hesitating, then no longer. "Sir," said I, "or madam, truly your forgiveness I implore, but the fact is I was napping, and so gently you came rapping, and faintly you came tapping at my chamber door, that I scarce thought I heard you. Here I opened the door." Darkness there, and nothing more. Deep into that darkness peering, long I stood there wondering, fearing, doubting, dreaming dreams no mortals ever dared to dream before. But the silence was unbroken, and the stillness gave no token, and the only word there spoken was the whispered word, "Lenore." This I whispered, and an echo murmured back the word, "Lenore." Merely this, and nothing more. Back into the chamber turning, all my soul within me burning, soon again I heard a tapping, somewhat louder than before. "Surely," said I, "surely that is something at my window lattice. Let me see then what thereat is, and the mystery explore. Let my heart be still a moment, and this mystery explore. 'Tis the wind, and nothing more." "Open here!" I flung the shutter, when, with a many a flirt and flutter, in there stepped a stately raven of the sainted days of yore. Not the least obeisance he made, not a minute stopped or stayed he, but with mien of lord or lady, perched above my chamber door, perched upon the bust of Pallas, just above my chamber door, perched and sat, and nothing more. Then this ebony bird beguiling my sad fancy into smiling, by the grave and stern decorum of the countenance it wore. Though thy crest be shorn and shaven, thou, said I, art sure no craven, ghastly grim and ancient raven, wandering from the nightly shore. Tell me what thy lordly name is on this night's Plutonian shore. Quoth the raven, nevermore. Much I marveled at this ungainly fowl, to hear discourse so plainly, though its answer little meaning, little relevancy bore. For we cannot help agreeing that no living human being ever yet was blessed with seeing a bird above his chamber door, bird or beast upon the sculptured bust above his chamber door, with such a name as Nevermore. But the raven, sitting lonely on that placid bust, spoke only that one word, as if his soul in that one word he did outpour. Nothing further he uttered, not a feather did he flutter, still I scarcely more than muttered, other friends have flown before. On the morrow he will leave me, as my hopes have flown before. Then the bird said, nevermore. Startled at the stillness broken by reply so aptly spoken, doubtless, said I, what it utters is only stock and store, caught from some unhappy master, whom unmerciful disaster followed fast and followed faster, till his songs one burden bore, till the dirges of his hope that melancholy bore, of never, nevermore. But the raven, still beguiling my fancy into smiling, straight I wheeled a cushioned seat in front of the bird, and betook myself to thinking, fancy unto fancy, thinking what this ominous bird of yore, what this grim, ungainly, ghastly, gaunt, and ominous bird of yore meant in croaking, nevermore. Thus I sat, engaged in guessing, but no syllable expressing, to the fowl whose fiery eyes now burned into my bosom's core. This I sat, divining, with my head at ease reclining on the cushion's velvet lining that the lamplight gloated over, but whose velvet violet lining with lamplight gloating over she shall press. Ah, nevermore. Then methought the air grew denser, perfumed by some unseen censer, swung by seraphim whose footfalls tinkled on the tufted floor. Wrench, I cried, thy God has lent thee, by these angels he has sent thee, respite, respite, and nepenthe from memories of Lemoore. Quaff, oh quaff this kind nepenthe, and forget this lost Lenore. Quoth the raven, nevermore. Prophet, said I, thing of evil, prophet still, if bird or devil, whether tempest sent, or whether tempest tossed thee here ashore, desolate, all undaunted, on this desert land enchanted, on this home by horror haunted, tell me truly, I implore, is there balm in Gilead? Tell me, I implore. Quoth the raven, nevermore. Prophet, said I, thing of evil, prophet still, if bird or devil, by that heaven that bends above us, by that God we both adore. Tell this soul with sorrow laden, if this distant Aden shall clasp a sainted maiden, whom the angels name Lenore. Clasp a rare and radiant maiden, who the angels name Lenore. Quoth the raven, nevermore. Be that word our sign of parting, bird or fiend, I shrieked upstarting. Get thee back to the tempest of night's Plutonian shore. Leave no black plume as a token of that lie thy soul has spoken. Leave my loneliness unbroken. Quit the bust above my door. Take thy beak from out my heart, and take thy form from off my door. Quoth the raven, nevermore. And the raven, never flitting, still is sitting on the pallid blest of palace just above my chamber door. And his eyes have all the seeming of a devil that is dreaming, and the lamplight o'er him streaming down throws his shadow on the floor. And my soul from out of that shadow that lies floating on the floor shall be lifted nevermore.
That was so beautiful, Tricia. Thank you so much. And I love the way you recited the poem. I can tell, or it appears you have a lot of experience in reciting poetry. It was beautiful, really beautiful. Thank you. Our next speaker, we don't do a minute for evaluation, right? Our next speaker is Pamelah. Pamelah is working from the special occasion speeches, speaking in praise. She is an expert master hand analyst and was introduced to hand analysis by Richard Ungar in 1991 and has been learning about and writing about teaching hand analysis ever since. The #1 international best-selling author of hand analysis products in the world, Pamelah would not have this career without Richard. Today, Pamelah will be speaking in praise of Richard Ungar, the developer of hand analysis system that she uses. Please help me welcome Advanced Communicator Gold and Advanced Leader Bronze, Pamelah Landers. The title of her speech in praise of Richard Ungar. The time is 5 to 7 minutes.
Thank you very much, Lori. 1969, Richard Ungar is on leave from the National Guard, finds himself in Colorado with some friends, and goes into a bookstore. In the bookstore, he sees a book on palmistry next to a book on astrology. Choosing the palmistry book, Richard began a career that has impacted my career. Nearly 50 years ago, Richard began the process of reading hands. He took the book back to his buddies while he was on vacation in Colorado, opened up the book and started looking at their hands to see what markings they had that were named in the book. This is the process Richard employed for years. After he got back to New York, where he was living, he found other palmistry books and started reading them. Every chance he got while he was in college or with other people, he'd look at the books. He'd read what was there to the person whose hands had been opened to him. And if the people agreed with what was said, Richard started making notes about what would be included in this system. Some things that he read in palmistry books got left out of the system that Richard designed because not everybody agreed with the content that he was sharing with them. Consequently, his system is super accurate. One of the things Richard does not do in the system that he teaches of scientific hand analysis, he does not include anything that's predictive or fortune telling, nor does he include anything medical because he's not a medical professional. Although he has the knowledge of many, many medical markings in the hands, it's amazing how much information is available in the hand that is medically marked. He does not include that in what he teaches because most of the people taking classes from Richard and from the people that he's taught to be teachers who take classes are not medical professionals, so they can't recommend medical things. I really honor Richard's integrity in being able to keep this system very accurate and free from what most people would consider a palmistry reading, which is, tell me about how many children and wives I'm going to have, and am I going to make money, and am I going to be successful? That is not what it gets included in this system. What does get included in this system that Richard designed is the lines in the hands identifying characteristics and behaviors, the hand shape and tip finger shape identifying archetypes of how you relate to the world. And later in his career, about 10 years after he had discovered hands, the whole fingerprint system came through. One day, Richard decided, after reading all the palmistry books he could find printed in English, that only one person had been writing about fingerprints. This made no sense to him. He took himself to the Houston Medical Library, University of Houston, where he was living at the time, and his life at the moment was all about being a financial support for people. He was in the financial services business, reading hands on the side. 3 days in the medical library, there were so many articles and books in the medical library on fingerprints. He was astonished. Richard read everything he could, which is why it took him 3 days, and realized that a lot of information is available to diagnose disease from hand and fingerprint types. This was shocking to Richard. On the third day, as he's reading a book by Cummins, all of a sudden he gets a download about how the fingerprint system overlays what he already knew about hands, and that the fingerprints, which are formed 16 weeks after conception, and they never change, identify life purpose, life lesson, and life school, which are all soul agreements. The fingerprints are the only part of the hands that never change. Consequently, after many years of talking with people about fingerprints to find out how accurate that system was, Richard wrote a book called Life Prints, and it's all about the fingerprints. This is Richard's major contribution to hands that nobody else had ever done. He began that journey in the late 70s. So 40 years ago, Richard introduced the concept of fingerprints being soul agreement into the world of hand analysis, which had never been done before. I honor Richard. Without Richard's integrity and Richard's passion for research, I never would have become a hand analyst. It is my career. I have a calling to hands, and it is to document the system that I so honor and so appreciate. I use my language to document it, but it is Richard who created the system that I use. And it is Richard that I honor today because he's the one who had the courage to take the risk, to be a maverick, and step outside of the realm of what most people considered palmistry and create a system called scientific hand analysis, including fingerprints that had never been done before. Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you so much, Pamela. That was a fascinating speech, and I loved hearing more about what you do for a living and where it comes from. Thank you so much for sharing that.
You're welcome.
Now, we usually go on to topics, but because Todd's time is limited, where is Todd? Did we lose Todd? Oh, there he is. Okay. Because Todd's time is limited, I wanted to bring our general evaluator to introduce the speech evaluators, Rick for evaluator 1 and Todd for evaluator 2, and then we'll come back to topics and our GE can have some more time at the end. All right? And Francisco, I'm not sure if you were there for the conversation that we'll do 2 to 3 minute evaluation by the evaluators and then open it up for 4 minutes of group evaluation for each speaker.
Thank you for the details, Madam Toastmaster. I'm hearing then that Rick is going to evaluate the first speaker. Are
Correct.
they both going to get a round robin? Is that correct, or just
Yes,
Pamelah?
both.
Great. So, everybody, for our first speaker, Tricia, on her interpretive reading, of the Raven. Here's Rick with his evaluation. Again, 2 to 3 minutes, and then 4 minutes for round robin. Thank you. Take it away, Rick.
Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator. Wow, Tricia, what a great job. I really enjoyed her interpretive reading of the poem, The Raven. I would like to offer some gifts, some feedback. First of all, when she was introduced, she started immediately into the poem. It would have been nice to have had a little bit of a greeting and saying what the poem was, rather than just go straight into it. Also, at the end, it was just finishing and then that's it, rather than Madam Toastmaster. So I think that it would have been a little bit better to, at the beginning, to say Madam Toastmaster, thank you, or whatever, but to start off that way, then we would have been prepared to listen to the poem. The poem was extremely well rehearsed. I really enjoyed listening to it. One of the questions in the evaluation, was it sing-song? Were the pauses done well? What I put down in my notes here, it sounded like I was listening to a book on tape. It really sounded professional to me. I totally enjoyed listening to her interpretation of The Raven. Another little piece of feedback. At one point, the Raven was knocking. It sounded knocking on the door, but her hand couldn't see it. Be more aware of the camera space. Other times was extremely well done, but sometimes it was off the mind, not noticing that we didn't really see the hand, maybe a finger or something like that. Be more aware that we are on camera. Watch your little box on the screen and know that you're getting the points across that you want to with your hands, and move slowly, because if I move fast, it doesn't look good. The poem itself, I think, was extremely well chosen for, because as I was listening to it, I was visualizing the poem itself, the Raven, the different things around it. All I can say is, excellent job. I loved listening to it. And I don't usually like interpretive reading. This was extremely well done. Thank you for doing such a beautiful job, Mr. General Evaluator. I believe we're going to open this up to general evaluation through other members.
Correct. 4 minutes for a round robin. So chime in, sure, to what Richard said, correct.
Is there anybody else that would like to add to my evaluation of her?
I'm raising my hand.
Okay, Lori.
Tricia, I enjoyed your poem so much. your voice was incredible. I was just completely entranced by your voice and the way that you recited the rhyme. It was really, really well done. And I enjoyed your selection of poem as well, but I don't recite poetry as well as you do, and it was really so enjoyable. Thank you.
Anybody else? Yes, Todd.
Yes, I'd like to compliment you on a wonderful reading. I would also endorse the idea that this was like a book on tape, which I listen to very often. I contrasted it to what I've heard this done in our club, and I felt like I could hang with the words so much better in your delivery. And so I'm not sure how much you could actually read, but I felt I was still connected to you, and that you were not connected to the page, you were connected to me. So that was an awesome job. To grow on, the only thing I could think of was maybe there's some points where you could drop to a little slightly lower register, a bass more in a lower tone to emphasize a point. But other than that, your expression, the clarity of the poem itself came through wonderfully. I would listen to it again without any hesitation. Thank you.
Anything further from anyone else?
I'd like to add something.
Yes.
I really enjoyed it, and again, to reiterate what everybody said, the book on tape piece, I'm actually going to share this with my daughter who loves Edgar Allan Poe, so she will hear you again. One of the things I also super enjoyed is the fact that I never really connected with any excitement in it. So I loved the way you interpret it. Like, I loved your, like, this moments of possibility, like, he can really talk, the Raven, you know, and you gave that to us. And I know I've heard this a million times. I know I've read it a million times, but there was something more in the interpretation that you gave us that I hadn't seen before. And I really appreciated that. So thank you.
Any other comments? All right. I had one more comment that I forgot to mention. Tricia placed the book so perfectly. It was as if she had a teleprompter. Her eyes were on the screen almost the whole time. And I really commend you for that beautiful job. That completes our evaluation, unless somebody else has a final comment. Thank you so much for allowing me to evaluate such a beautiful speech. Mr. General Evaluator.
Thank you. Thank you, Richard. And now we move on to Todd's evaluation of Pamelah's speech. Same format, 2 to 3 minutes on the evaluator, and then a 4-minute round robin. Todd, take it away.
Welcome, fellow Toastmasters. Let's put our hands together for a wonderful speech. When you started with your topic, I wasn't sure what your background was and how this influenced you, but I thought your speech was very informational and talked about how you developed your own passion for the study of hand analysis and how you used the story of the journey of this individual, Richard Ungar, in his discovery. Unfortunately, along the way, I also learned that my tolerance for heat is much greater than my iPhone. And halfway through, I lost connection because it heated up too much. So lesson learned in this online experience. I now have the air conditioning on. Hopefully things were going better. For things to comment on, I thought Pamelah, your voice clarity is very strong. You came through with a very clear message, well-paced, well presented. I found it very easy to follow the organization of your speech as you had this journey. Unfortunately, I lost you part way, so I'm counting on my other Toastmasters to talk a little bit more about your close and give you a little feedback on that. I found myself convinced by your praise of this individual, and I want to go back and look and find out more about this. You also made me think a lot about not just, as I drifted for a moment, I thought about the fact that you might be referring to the astrology side of this, and then you clarified that very much, and I was able to take advantage of this. And it also made me think about my interactions with physical therapists who are able to predict and talk about people's habits and occupations and even some cases health conditions just by looking at their shoes or the bottoms of their feet. So I found this quite intriguing. It's something I've never really done before, but you've now challenged me to continue to look at your work and also Richard Ungar. So with that, I will close out for my portion. And for things to grow on, I would just say just a little more enthusiasm, and I'm hoping that the close of your speech, you would have closed with this high praise for this person that has changed your life. Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator.
Thank you, Todd. Excellent points all. Again, we have 4 minutes for open round robin on Pamelah's speech. Anyone, just jump in. Thank you.
I have my hand up. Someone, who is leading this?
Who's hosting? Yeah, who's hosting this? Fransisco.
Or Todd, really. He's the evaluator.
Okay.
Todd, you call on people.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand the protocol. Thank you for the correction. Okay, so anyone who's interested, and that would be Laura. Lori, would you please continue?
Sure. Pamelah, I enjoyed your speech so much, and we learned a lot about hand analysis, and I love the way Pamelah was so descriptive in describing the difference between like reading a palm and hand analysis. One suggestion I have, I'm not sure how well it would have worked, but I was kind of hoping Pamelah would put up her hand and point to different places on her hand, since we can see a hand. I mean, if it was foot analysis, it would have been too difficult to show your foot on the screen. But I think maybe it would have worked to, as a prop, to point to places on the hand or describe something about hand analysis. Overall, I think, and I also agree with Todd's suggestion of a wider range of vocal variety. So Pamelah's voice was very good and she was easy to understand, but I would call it, what she delivered was a narrow range of vocal variety, and a wider range would have added even more to her speech. Todd, back to you.
Thank you, Lori. And is there anyone else interested in adding comments?
I'd be happy to add something, Todd. Hi. So I have heard Pamelah speak about hands many, many times. I've had her read my hands. It's very enlightening, very happy to know this about myself. And I agree with Lori's assessment to have this. You could really easily have pointed to the fingers, pointed to especially the fingerprints when you were talking about fingerprints. I think that would have added. As far as vocal variety, Pamelah, I know you personally, so I know you're not going to go, yay, I'm so excited. You know, he was a great guy. But even dropping your voice and maybe slowing it down a little bit to say, this guy really made a difference. And doing it more authentically, not like everybody else would do it, but do it in a way that feels really good to you to add that vocal variety, because you've made a huge difference in my life. And I know he's made a huge difference in yours, and just giving us that maybe a different emotional thing to connect with, I think would have been helpful. So thank you again. Back to you, Todd.
Thank you, Dawn. And is anyone else interested in adding comments for our speaker?
I can give some comments.
Yes, Aaron, go ahead.
I love Pamelah's speeches. To me, I was actually mind blown that her career actually started and inspired by someone that has wrote a very fantastic book. And that book actually been, I also read that book because I was part of the forensic before. And actually that kind of helps me a bit in terms of identifying people. But the point is that I love all the comments I've mentioned, the vocal variety part. I would love Pamelah to be much more lively. I know Pamelah, I've seen Pamelah a few times in evaluating and giving speeches. I want to see more energy. The authenticity is there. I just need some life that is, instead of looking and it's like more like an instructional video. I want you to be putting your focus onto us so we can feel you, we can be engaged with you. And about the props wise, I will actually give a twist on compared to Dawn and Laurie's on the fingerprints on different parts of the fingers. I'd rather you can share the screen of some of the examples that you have done, or some templates of fingerprints that you have done, and you give us some examples of how it can be illustrated. Sharing screens and using the props can be an effective way in letting us know more about your field of expertise. All in all, it's a great speech. I love it. Look forward to hearing more from you later on. Back to you, Todd.
Thank you.
Thank you all for your feedback. And yes, Laurie, I do.
Did you have anything else to add,
Todd?
Pamelah? Was there anybody else, or does that wrap it up?
We're at time.
Yeah, we're at time, and if I may make this part later. The details, the experience is different, and we're always evolving format. So I'm sorry I asked for people to jump in, maybe more in a conference call style. But the thing is, on a phone, I cannot see everybody. I cannot see all the hands. So I'm only looking at the speaker. I apologize for that. I guess I'll hand it over now to Laurie, our Toastmaster.
Thank you
I'm
so
leaving.
much. Bye-bye, Todd. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Todd.
For leading us in that general evaluation session. We'll be hearing from Fransisco again at the end of the meeting. Now I'd like to call on Dawn as our table topics master. Dawn, do we need someone else to time for you, or will you be able to?
I think I can do both. We'll try it out.
Okay. All right.
And so I was thinking about your topic, or your theme of the day, which is spring. And I was really wanting to connect this with leadership. So of course, that's what we do here. And so in the table topics, as we go forward, what I'm going to do is ask you to think of yourself as being a springboard for other future leaders, because we are Maverick leaders. And I'm going to ask you to give some specific advice for situations that may happen for leaders when they have things sprung on them. So be prepared. And if you are a guest who would like to participate in this portion, just raise your hand so I can know that you are wanting to participate. Otherwise, I will let you be a silent guest today. So do I have, well, I'm going to call on people then other than our guests because I don't see any hands up. I would like to ask Richard, are you prepared? I'm going to put you on. You can unmute yourself to get prepared. So the question is, you are leading a group, or you're leading some group or some event, and someone springs upon you a change that you cannot change back. It's something that is out of your control. You're advising somebody else how to deal with this situation. Richard, you have 1 to 2 minutes.
Thank you so much for that topic. I love it. Being a leader, I've learned to go with the flow. When changes happen, we find a way to make it into something really amazing, like making lemonade out of lemons, rather than just, oh my goodness, what do we do now? It's what we do in table topics. We learn to hear a topic and speak on it. What I do when I've led something and all of a sudden there's a twist in the road, I find a way to take that twist and improve what we actually had to start with. Maybe it's not exactly what I visualized from the beginning, but by allowing somebody else to run with it, the person who created the change, we're able to have something different and maybe a lot better than what I originally had anticipated to be the outcome of the event. So, Madam Topics Master, my suggestion when we're thrown into a monkey wrench of changes is to learn how to embrace them, love them, and then just have a great time with the experience. Madam Topics Master.
Thank you, Rick. That was a wonderful answer. And at this time, I'm going to call on Aaron. Aaron, if you could unmute yourself and be prepared to have a question sprung on you today. You are giving advice to a future leader who just found out that everything that they've been working towards has been changed. Like the rules of the game have just been changed. So I want you to share with them some advice on how to deal with this. Aaron.
Ladies and gentlemen, fellow Toastmasters, what a great question. I'm not as energetic as Richard when I'm faced with this because I have been there. When I have been in that situation, I was stuck with a situation that have everything changed and I have to spend within the next 2 hours setting the plans. Everyone run away and I'm left with myself alone. And if I talk to this future leader that he has encountered with this, the first thing he needs is assurance. Being a leader has to be composed in handling every affairs. Even if there is only just one person, you are still making one difference. As long as you're alive, everything is possible. So within that, the second thing that he needs to do is composure. Being worried, anxious is not sufficient. I mean, like, basically you can't do anything to get just corrected everything. Think about the best main priorities, organize it, settle it, make actions, take it. That will be composure. The third thing that I would love to advise this future leader is, no matter what you do, don't regret it. Don't blame yourself that everything is changed and then you put the liability on yourself. You are going to set off a challenge. And when you set off the challenge, you just go for it. Do not care about what the results are if you have made a difference. Finally, my final tip for this future leader is, compared to him, let him feel better that way, that I am worse. So I have been worse in that situation, just like recently, that division director situation, the rules have been changed within the political situation. But I have to tell him that, well, do not expect too high. When you expect low, baby steps, one step at a time. And when you reach that goal, making sure all arrangements have been settled, go and deliver it. Deliver it, even if it's bad, it's still a result. Answer it, be honest, and people will accept your change. Back to you, Stable Topic Master.
Thank you, Aaron. That was very enlightening, and I appreciate it. And we have time for one more, and I'm going to ask for somebody to raise their hand. Otherwise, oh, David, I would love to hear your thoughts. I'm going to unmute you. I'm going to do that for, I think I'm going to do it. Maybe you can unmute yourself. There you go. Awesome. So, David, you are a leader giving advice to a future leader who has had something sprung on them. This time, I want you to give advice to a future leader who has had a ton of work given to them, just sprung on them. Tell that future leader what they can do or how to handle this. It's all you, David.
Excuse me, so you mean a child that the leader has so many work to deal with it?
They were just given more work than what they think they can handle.
Oh,
you are helping them. You're helping them, giving them some advice.
Okay. Dear Tabletop Session Master and ladies and gentlemen, Today, it's my honor to share some advices to the future leaders to deal with it, to deal with the more works. I have few suggestions to him or her. First one, be patient. Be patient. Why? Why do I say that? Because being patient, because when you face so many works, the first thing you have to be patient, to be calm, to deal with them. Or if you lose the temper, you will not find some directions to deal with each of them. The second thing is compassion. Remember those people who are led by you, and maybe some of them cannot agree what you think. So you may try to think in their shoes to deal with any kind of problem. The last one, keep positive. Why do I say that? Because you are chosen be a leader. That means you have some special ability to face any kind of situation. So thanks God that He gives you some special mission so that to sharpen your skills. So please be positive. All in all, all in all, that's my 3 suggestions for the future leader. The first one, be patient to stay calm to face any kind of situation. The second one, compassion to think in other people's shoes. The last one, always thank God that He gives you a wonderful mission and to sharpen your skills. Be positive. That's my sharing. Thank you. Tabletop Master.
Thank you very much, David. And at this time, I'm going to turn the meeting back over to our Toastmaster of the day, Lori.
Thank you, Dawn. Excellent table topic session. I'm going to turn the meeting over to our GE Fransisco to call for reports and any other comments about the meeting. Fransisco, you need to unmute. Fransisco, are you with us? You need to unmute. Fransisco? There you go.
Hello?
Yes.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, Verizon commercial, by the way. I'm sorry about all the technical things that are happening on my end. I cannot see anybody. Again, I'm on the phone, but at least I can hear you. So I apologize again for that. And I don't know if anybody can see this, something I was...
Yeah. So, Fransisco,
you guys can see the raised hands.
I would like you to call for reports and anything else you want to say about the meeting.
Yes, Lori, that's part of what I was trying to say is, you know, like, for example, with the raised hands, maybe because I've only been here a couple of times, I don't know if the feature, it's working. Anyway, timer report, please, Dawn.
Thank you, Fransisco. We have, for our speaker, Tricia was at 10:17, Pamelah was at 6:55, Rick's evaluation was 2:44, Todd's was 2:22. Our first extra 4 minutes was 3 minutes and 8 seconds. Our second one was 5 minutes. Work on that. And as far as the table topics, I believe everyone was within time. So thank you very much. Back to you, Fransisco.
Thank you. Who ended up being grammarian? I'm sorry.
Pamelah.
Pamelah,
So I'll give a report. I did all counting mostly. The only piece of grammarian was run-on sentences, which pretty much everybody had. Dawn uses the word and to connect sentences consistently. I counted 10, 1 and 2 so's. Lori, 1 3 ands to connect sentences. Aaron, 4 ands to connect sentences. Rick, 1 and 1 so. That wasn't necessary. Adam, 2 ands. Aaron, 2 ands, sorry. David, 1 and 1 and to connect a sentence. David, a number of double starts, starting the same sentence 2 or 3 times before you finish the sentence. Consistently. I saw that consistently. That's my report.
Thank you, Pamelah. Timer, Grammarian, I think we had some flexibility and demonstrated leadership, bringing into action by switching the format. And hopefully this is the kind of thing that this club does well. They'll show up on the tip. Lori, am I allowed to now go into my comments?
Well, you have about less than 1 minute.
Okay, so bottom line, I joined the club because of the leadership, the way you guys approach innovation. Technical difficulties are part and parcel. I personally feel that we are adapting a time-honored tradition into places where we haven't gone before. And today for me has been a rather harrowing day. My headset is now reminding me that it's about to be discharged, for example, and I know I jump back and forth with the audio. How does that reflect on the meeting? I personally think that's what brings us here, is that we're learning to use our tools. Little things like everybody listing their role on their name, that I think it's amazing how you guys are doing it. The fact that we also list our awards and achievements, that also helps. I feel that the club is doing great in terms of the use of the chat monitoring is amazing. I would like to find out someday how Don handles the hosting, because that's something that some clubs that I belong to, we need to learn more about that. And that happens here at ATO flawlessly. So is this an open face sandwich? You guys are amazing. The fact that people are here from all over the world, the fact that we have this quick FAQ at the beginning of each meeting with a reminder of the mission. I find all those things to be encouraging. And again, I'm glad to be here now as a paid member. Lori, take it away. Thank you.
Thank you, Francisco. We're definitely running a little late today, perhaps because of the extra time for group evaluation. But thank you, everyone, for your participation in the meeting. It was a really great meeting.
Thank you.
I know we need to review roles for next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dawn, I don't know if I know how to lead that effort. Can I get your help?
I can. Would you, do you have time after this meeting today or not? I'm wondering if you have a call today.
It'll take 5 minutes.
Okay. So if you would like, ooh, I'm getting feedback. So if you would like to go to our website and click on the agenda where it says, well, click on the date for next week, and then click on edit roles, meeting roles. Have you found that? I might be able to find it for you if you don't get to it.
Okay.
Oh, edit signups. Sorry. Have you found that, Lori?
You're muted, Lori. Dawn, you can stop recording.
Nope, thank you.